floorboards creaked with a secret last night, carrying my son's hushed voice as he read my savings account number to his new wife. Each number was a nail in the coffin of the trust I'd spent a lifetime building. I stayed perfectly still in my bed, feeling the last fragments of my hope for him dissolve into the darkness. For 42 years, I worked my fingers raw at the garment factory, saving every spare cent not for luxury, but for dignity in my final years. And now the boy I'd sung to sleep was scheming to take it all. I didn't make a sound. I just let a slow, grim smile form and reached for the second phone charging by my bed. They believed I was dreaming, but in 1 hour, I would show them what a nightmare looked like. Trust is a fragile thing. Once broken, it cuts deeper than any knife. If you're with me in this, let me know where you're joining from in the comments. Every single comment feels like a hand on my shoulder. And if this story resonates, please hit the like button. It truly helps the channel Winds of Thought reach others who might need to hear. My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 68, a widow for 10 years in a quiet neighborhood of Lexington, Kentucky. They say the silence of an empty house is hard, but it's nothing compared to the deafening noise of betrayal from your own child. I'm not wealthy. I'm a retired seamstress who spent decades hunched over a machine, my spine curved and my vision blurred, all to build a small fortress of security. Every saved dollar was a brick in that wall, meant to keep me independent, not a gift for someone to plunder. When my husband Arthur passed, my son Jeremy was 25. At the graveside, he gripped my hand and promised, "I'll always look after you, Mom. You won't ever have to face things alone." I clung to that vow, but it began to unravel in less than 3 years. It started with small loans, $400, then $1,200, then $5,000. He claimed it was for a business license, then for a down payment on a van. Each time I mentioned repayment, he'd sigh and say, "You know I'm good for it. Just be patient." I didn't want to cause a scene, so I started a log in a little blue ledger, tucked inside my recipe box where no one ever checked. Then he married Clara. She was charming, always calling me Mom with a voice like warm honey. I wanted to trust her, but her eyes held a calculating chill, the look of someone sizing up a prize. At first, they were busy and visits were rare. I didn't complain. A son needs his own life. But after they moved into a bigger home, their pattern changed. They came by more frequently, always with a new agenda. One afternoon, Jeremy brought a lemon cake and said, "Clara and I are worried about you managing your finances alone. It would be safer if you let us help. Just a signature or two is all it would take." I gave a thin smile and asked, "Help how? And who's helping you too?" He let out a nervous chuckle and glanced away. I made a note in my book that day. Jeremy proposed joint account access. From that moment, I decided to watch and listen. I paid attention to Clara's casual questions. "Mom, which credit union do you like? Do you use their mobile banking?" I answered vaguely, but I knew the truth. They were drawing a map to my life's work. Each evening, I'd sit at the kitchen table, under the glow of the lamp Arthur had repaired, and I built my defense. I called it my safety protocol. Step 1. Update all passwords and enable two-factor authentication. Step 2. Create a new private email for all financial alerts. Step 3. Set up immediate text notifications for any account activity. I visited my credit union and met with the advisor, Mr. Chan, who had assisted me before. I need to completely upgrade my account security. I told him, my voice low but steady. He looked concerned. "Has there been fraud?" "Not yet," I said. "But I believe someone is about to try." We updated everything. I asked him to add a special instruction to my file. Require photo ID for any in-person withdrawals. As I was leaving, Mr. Chun leaned in and said softly, "It's a shame, but we see this too often. You're being very smart." I just nodded. His words were a comfort and a sorrow. Back home, I divided my savings. Account 1. I left $4,500, a tempting enough sum. Account 2. I moved the remaining $78,200. No debit card for this one, just a physical passbook and a secure token. I hid the passbook inside the lining of an old ottoman I'd reupholstered myself. To any eyes, it was just part of the furniture. Next, I switched all correspondence to my new secret email and address no one would guess. I made a decoy wallet. Inside, I placed an expired bank card, someone's, and a handwritten note with a fake pin. the date of Jeremy's birthday. I wanted to see how clever he would be when he fell into the easiest snare I'd ever set. When my preparations were complete, I made chamomile tea and sat at the kitchen table where so many holiday meals had been shared. The soft light caught the steam rising from my cup, and I saw my reflection, older, yes, but with a resolve I hadn't felt in years. I thought of Arthur. He used to tell me, "Ellie, when someone mistakes your generosity for weakness, it's time to show them their error." I had waited too long with Jeremy, but I would wait no more. That night, after ensuring my alert phone was charged and ready, I went to my room and locked the door. I could hear Jeremy and Clara talking in low tones in the den, normal sounds that now felt like threats. "Good night, Mom," Clara called out. I answered, "Sleep well, you too." Then I turned off the lamp and lay down. Outside, the old grandfather clock ticked, each second a memory. Jeremy's first day of school, the time he scraped his knee, the proud look when he drove me to the market. Those memories remained, but my heart no longer recognized the man he'd become. That I opened my bedside drawer for a final check. My real documents were secure. The decoy wallet was placed conspicuously in an unlocked drawer. The alert phone was on silent, screen glowing, ready to light up with any transaction. The stage was set. Before sleeping, I wrote a few words in my journal. June 12th. Jeremy and Clara are preparing to take what isn't theirs. My heart is heavy, but my will is clear. Arthur was right. Love shouldn't require self-destruction. At dawn, I will teach my son a lesson about boundaries that life should have taught him long ago. I closed the book, placed a hand over my heart, and felt my calm, steady breath. The night air was cool through the screen. 1 hour, I thought. Then it begins. Not for vengeance, but for reclaiming what is mine. The next morning, Jeremy arrived before I'd even finished my coffee. He carried a box of donuts and 2 takeaway cups. I was watering the plants when I heard his voice. "Mom, we thought we'd stop by." He smiled broadly, but it didn't reach his eyes. I dried my hands on my dress and kept my tone even. "This is an early surprise." Jeremy set the box down and pulled out a chair. "Mom, Clara and I were talking. You're getting on and we're concerned. If you allowed us to oversee your finances, you'd have less stress." I looked at my son, clean-shaven, with a small ketchup stain on his tie. He was trying to sound caring, but I heard the hollow note in his voice, like an actor forgetting his lines. That I replied calmly, "That's kind. But I'm quite comfortable managing my own affairs." He forced a smile, took a sip from his cup. "We just want to help. We hear stories about seniors being scammed. Your money would be safer with us. We know how these things work." I held his gaze until he looked down. It was the same script from daytime television. I smiled slightly. "Perhaps, but I prefer to hold my own reins. If I need guidance, I'll ask." Jeremy nodded, pretending to be at ease, but his knuckles were white. He made small talk for 10 more minutes, then left. When his car was gone, I sat down, opened my ledger, and recorded it all. Wednesday, 8:15 a.m. Jeremy brought breakfast, pushed for financial control. Voice was pleasant but insistent. Broke eye contact when challenged. 2 days later, Clara visited alone. This was different. She usually had Jeremy beside her, as if for backup. The moment she stepped in, I saw her bright smile and a basket of muffins with a red ribbon. "Mom, it's been too long. I have something I'd love to discuss." I invited her in and prepared tea. She sat on the edge of the sofa, placed the basket down, and pulled a document from her bag with thick, official-looking paper. "Mom, this is a limited authorization. It would only be used in an emergency. If you needed someone to speak to the bank for you." I didn't look at the papers immediately. I studied her face, the perfect lipstick, the bright, unblinking eyes, and her manicured finger pushing the pages toward me. I asked quietly, "Where did this come from?" "A friend at a legal firm. It's just a standard form." I pretended to struggle with my reading glasses. "Let me look this over. My eyes aren't what they were." "Of course. Take your time." She smiled, but I saw a flash of irritation. I picked up my phone. "Why don't you text Jeremy for a moment? I'll just get my magnifying glass from the other room." I went to my bedroom, closed the door, opened the camera app, and took pictures of every single page. Then I returned, placed the document back precisely, and smiled. "I'll review this thoroughly and let you know." Her smile became strained. Certainly, no hurry. She stayed a few more minutes, chatting about nothing, then left and I stood at the window, watching her red car turn the corner. As soon as she was gone, I opened the photos and zoomed in. There it was in bold letters. Grant of authority to access and manage all financial accounts. Below was a signature line with my name already typed in a flowery font. I let out a long, slow breath. It wasn't anger I felt, but a deep, chilling disappointment, like a winter frost settling in my bones. That night, as I was turning in, my phone lit up. A message from my neighbor George appeared. Eleanor, spotted Jeremy and Clara near your porch around 10:30. Looked like they were checking your mail. I got up and peered through the blinds. The mailbox door was slightly ajar. The porch light cast long shadows across the lawn. I put on my slippers and went outside. The mail had been shuffled, and a credit card offer was missing. I wasn't frightened, just profoundly sad. Jeremy had a key, yet he chose to skulk in the dark. The following day, I went to the post office and filled out a form to have all my financial mail held for pickup. I wouldn't give them another chance. From that day, I documented everything meticulously. Dates, times, conversations. I saved George's text. I stored the photos of the legal forms on a hidden cloud drive. No one knew the extent of my readiness, and they didn't need to. I bought a cheap, secondary phone solely for bank alerts. I kept my primary phone clean so if anyone glanced, they'd see only weather reports and photos of my garden. Each evening, under the warm light of the kitchen, I wrote in my ledger. Short, firm reminders to myself. Trust must be earned, not assumed. Family is not a license to take. One overcast afternoon, I took out my old will. The paper was brittle. In it, I had left almost everything to Jeremy, stating, for his unwavering love and devotion. I sat with that document for a long time, reading those words as if they were written about another person. I picked up a pen and added a final, new condition at the bottom. Should any beneficiary attempt to manipulate, intimidate, or unlawfully access my assets, they shall be disinherited entirely. I finished writing, let the ink dry, and signed my name. My hand was steady. There were no second thoughts. Sometimes the hardest strength to find is the strength to say no. That evening, with a gentle rain falling, I sipped my tea and remembered the past. Jeremy was once a tender boy, sharing his toys, running to me when he was scared. I had believed a child who sought such comfort would never harm his mother. But I had forgotten. Greed can grow in the quiet spaces between visits. I looked around my kitchen, at the sewing machine in the corner, the new curtains I'd hung, the little ceramic bird on the sill. It was all modest, but it was my sanctuary. Not extravagant, but mine. I told myself, do not yield out of obligation. Do not surrender for a false peace. If family demands the price of your security, then it is not family at all. When the clock chimed 9, I turned off the lights, closed the kitchen door, and tested the locks one last time. The house was secure, but I knew the true storm was still to come, and I was prepared not to strike back, but to stand my ground and protect the life I had built. That I had just set the kettle to boil when a sharp rap echoed at the door. I knew that knock, impatient, demanding. It was Jeremy. Before I could answer, the door swung open and he strode in. Mom, we need to talk. I gave a slight nod and placed the kettle on the stove. He stood in the middle of the kitchen, his hands shoved in his pockets, his eyes tired. I need $2,800. Just until payday, Mom. I promise. I didn't speak immediately. I got out a cup for his tea and gestured to a chair. Sit down. He sat but ignored the cup.